See, record. We are now recording.
Okay.
Okay, so you can go ahead and introduce yourself and then I'll start.
Okay. My name is Tracy Smith. I am currently the director of the Retention Through Academic Mentoring program, also known as RAMP. Before coming to RAMP, I worked for 10 years as an academic advisor in the Educational Opportunity Program, Student Support Services TRIO unit on campus. So I've been here, I've been here 15 years.
Great. And Tracy's here to talk to us today about who is the HSU student. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about from your work.
Thank you. I have some notes here because my thoughts were more lengthy than I expected in answering this question. But so every once in a while, I'll make sure I'm thinking about everything that I wanted to share and definitely getting that recorded. So when I think about today's HSU students, I tend to default to our younger students because that's mostly who I work with. I was trying to look on the data dashboard to figure out the average age, which I think is in the mid-20s. But when I think of the HSU student today, I do think of students who are in their late teens, early to mid-20s. These are folks that I'm pretty sure have never known a time without a computer for the most part. They're used to being able to get answers quickly through technology. And so they have a pace of life that is certainly different, I think, from a lot of people that work at Humboldt. So I think about that. I think about that it's quite likely now that they identify as a person of color compared to just a few years ago. They may identify as male or female. It's also possible that they identify as transgender. I think it's quite likely that they are learning or have learned how to live with some degree of potentially some mental illness issue. I know that we have a higher number of students that are learning to live with or have learned to live with anxiety as well as depression. There are also folks that are coming from families that have experienced certain degrees of financial hardship. Also, those families have instilled, I think, in our students a very, very strong sense of work ethic, and that by working hard, the pathway to success and survival, hopefully thriving, is guaranteed on a certain level. I think that there's a better than 50% chance that these are students who are bringing with them incredible independence as well as strong problem-solving skills, determination to be successful in their minds because they are likely to be the first in their family or one of the first children to go after a college degree. So with that comes all those attributes. Having those abilities, I think, also makes it highly likely that leaving their families is leaving a potential void in the family because they are the problem solvers, because they are the independent thinkers and managers. They may be fulfilling that role in their families. They may be a caregiver for family members. They may be someone who explains some of the bureaucracy that hits all of us in society. They may be the one explaining new laws that are coming down, especially recently. So their departure from their families to come to Humboldt can be potentially resulting in a significant void within their family structure. They also have to have a strength that requires them to carry those expectations and aspirations of more than themselves. So when they come to Humboldt, they aren't just carrying their own dreams, but that of their families as well. So that takes a remarkable level of strength. And to me, in my mind, courage. Their families really are not in a position to really fully comprehend the depth and the magnitude of the change that's being navigated by their child, their student. And yet, despite that load that the student is carrying, I feel like today's HSU student is extremely cognizant of their family and what their family may have sacrificed in order for them to be here. So I think about the graduations, and almost always there is a huge recognition of family in their story. So sometimes I've seen it feel like a burden among our students, and yet it's with a reverence and a respect that I think is extremely powerful. I think they're coming to us with they and their families. I think today's students coming to us with a level of trust and expectation, but excuse me, but it comes and for guidance, but without having to ask for it, because these are students that haven't been the ones to ask for help. They're the ones that have offered help. They're the ones that others have sought for help. So that potentially can be a new dimension that they haven't had to do before, to ask for help. So I think they come here expecting to see what they're supposed to do without necessarily asking for that. But I don't know that our signposts are clear, because I think our signposts are not really necessarily built or written for students that are bringing all these other attributes. Let's see, anything else? But I do think that they're just looking for the way to channel the work ethic and the strength and the courage and their all these other amazing attributes. They're just looking for the channel. And if we make that a little clearer, then they can apply all those skills and strengths and characteristics that I think are pretty downright fundamentally amazing.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, that gives us a really broad, picture of the student today. So as you're telling us this, is there like a specific student that you're thinking? I'm sure there's lots of them, but is there a specific student that you have in mind and maybe might be willing to share their story in terms of, without any names, but that made you think of some of these different attributes?
Yeah, and I appreciate, Kim, that you realize there are many, because there are. But when you offered this opportunity, I did have a particular student that came to mind, and he graduated just 2 or 3 years ago. Is from Southern California, and identifies as male and Latino. And I met him when I was still at EOP, so he came in as a participant in the Educational Opportunity Program. And though I didn't work with him directly, excuse me, I was fortunate in that he worked in the EOP office and eventually became one of our peer mentors in that program. And then I was lucky enough to snag him to be a RAMP mentor. So I knew him from the time of his freshman year all the way through to his graduation. And he is the student that I talked about. He continues to be the cornerstone for his family in many, many ways. And I think over the course of the years that he was at Humboldt, shared with me the pull to be there for family, but also this very, very powerful drive to get a better life for himself and his family. He navigated and managed some major questions for himself in terms of his own mental wellness, and he did what he needed to do to find a way to manage that quite successfully. He connected with his faculty and was very fortunate to find a tremendous amount of support there. But I think that those first steps towards asking for support and asking for help from folks that didn't initially offer it as outreach, he knew what that felt like coming in through EOP. He knew what it felt like to be supported unconditionally. And transferring that trust to another source of support was a big turning point for him. And his faculty have been and continue to be wonderful. He is going to graduate in May from another Cal State with his master's degree in counseling. And he's actively interviewing and going after jobs that's going to put him in a position, I hope, to be an academic advisor. So he knew from the beginning that it was either going to be a high school counselor position or something like an EOP advisor. And that's what he's going after. So yeah, I'm thinking about him right now.
Well, I kind of feel goosebumps, even though I don't know the student, but just hearing the story, really powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it.
It's what brings us to work, right?
It drives us for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I'm just going to turn off the recording now, but